Hello, my name's Tim Laskey. I work with horses that have problems, and I'm going to show you today how I go about getting some sort of control over these horses. To control the horse's mind, we need to be able to control the horse's movement. To be able to control the horse's movement, we need to be able to control the hindquarters, the front end, the head. Probably in that order. Horses can be extremely dangerous animals. They can kill you, they can maim you. And so from my point of view, everything I do is concerned with safety with horses, both on the ground initially, and then when we go a little bit further down the line in the saddle. So I'm going to demonstrate one or two things with my two horses. This is Cherry, and we're going to start off by moving free here in the round pen and show you the sort of control that can be developed. I'm using my two hands. The hand behind with the rope halter in is the drive hand. The hand in front is the direction hand, and I can use both hands to create a little pressure and send this horse away. I'm going to push her out onto the rail. Put her into a canter. I'm going to move her here and turn her on the far side of the pen. To move her, I need to be behind the drive line, which is about where the girth is. I'll move now, change direction, in around me, send her the other way. When I'm moving her at the canter, I'm looking to synchronise my footfall with hers. To get things right with horses, we're using body language. To communicate with them in a way that they can understand. I'm going to turn her on the far side now. Call her now. I'm bringing her back towards the camera. She'll stop facing me, which is what I want. I want two eyes on me the whole time. I want the horse to square up to me and give me some attention and some respect. She's now going to follow me over to the far side of the pen. Up and face me again. I'm now going to move her in a very small circle, which is the most athletic thing for a horse to do. Drive hand here behind the girth, direction hand here calling her in. Call her. Change direction, inside eye, just move her around again, pick it up, little energy here, call up. It's very important with a horse to be able to get it to acquiesce and put its head down, and so we're going to ask her to drop her head for us. The method that I use with just about all of these exercises and procedures is called pressure and release. I apply a little pressure, and when the horse gives me something, I release. Pressure and release. If I want this horse to go back, a little pressure, although I'm not touching her, and release. Pressure and release. The most important thing is the release and not the pressure. You have to give the horse the reward for trying. you reward the smallest try, the slightest change. Okay, we're now coming out of the pen and we're going to work this horse free outside the pen. That's fine. This is just to show that you can work a horse loose without the contains of a round pen or other enclosure once you get some sort of control over the animal. That's fine. This is the most important piece of equipment that I have, the cowboy halter and the long rope lead. The typical English halter lead is about 6 feet long. If a horse is difficult, obstructive, even dangerous, it doesn't give you room to get out of the way and still control the horse. With a horse that is head shy, you often have a problem in putting a halter on because it doesn't like to be affected around the ears. With this, it's a very simple procedure. I put the rope over the neck so that I've got some element of control, and then I would just take the halter and I would reach around the horse's neck, and all I need to do is actually just scoop the halter onto the horse's nose, and I can be well away from the ears when I'm putting this on. An easy run through and tie there in a simple knot, and I've got the horse under control. I'm just going to move over here, and what I want to show you is that we are looking for the horse to follow just the weight of this rope. So if I step off to the side here, the horse should follow the weight of the rope. If I step off this way, the horse should follow the weight of the rope. There's an old maxim in the sort of horsemanship that I'm employed with, and that is, if you can't lead, the horse won't load. And so everything I do is involved with this pressure release, so a little bit of pressure, release. A little bit of pressure, and the horse learns to take the pressure away from itself. So, if I'm teaching the horse to respect my space and to look at me and pay attention, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of points here, point of the shoulder and the hip, and I'm going to work a right angle triangle off the shoulder so that any time I'm working close to the horse in this area here, the horse is going to stand still. However, when I move to the point bisected by the right angle extended and then the hypotenuse from the hip, anytime I move to there, I expect the horse to move its hip over and straighten up and square to me. This takes a little bit of time to teach, and fundamentally the way we would teach it is for me to step to that point that we'd call the corner and just point and rotate the rope in the direction of the horse. It'll then move its hip over. These horses of mine are pretty refined. Initially one would expect quite a lot of resistance, and so quite simply one would step over and we get to a point where just by making a movement I can get the horse to swing right across. We move on from there to the situation where we can get the horse to move its hip just by stepping in towards the hip. So the horse is moving out of my space and stopping. We'll back her up. What we do on one side we need to do on the other side. So the horse is moving away from me here. I've got control of the head, so if one encounters a horse that is likely to kick or try to damage you, all you need to do is take that control and move the hip away from ourselves. Having moved the hip, we need to be able to move the front end of the horse. I would expect after a fairly short time for the horse to move away just when I approached it. So I'm not touching this horse, but she is moving her head away from me, and she'll continue to do so, and the quicker I move, the faster she's going to move her head and her shoulder. we get to a situation where we can very much operate as though we're pushing a small boat around on water, and the horse will move with that. Now, if I want the horse to give her head to me, I just lift the rope, and if I'm standing out here, as I've explained, at the shoulder, the whole body is going to move because she's going to send her hip away from me. However, if I want her just to offer me her head, and I move in here, then that head should come around just when I lift the rope. Nice and easy, great control. We take it on from there by doing what we call direct and drive. And as I said to you when I was in the round pen, my rear hand is the driving hand and my lead hand is the directing hand. So, if I want the horse to go away to my left, I don't make some flim-flam of a movement. I actually have to be very direct. So I lift up my hand, I turn my body to open the door for her, and if she's not moving, I will swing the rope towards the hip and she'll move away from me. I don't need to do anything once she's moving. If she's actually moving and doing what I wanted, I'm doing no good at all by keeping the pressure up. If I want to increase the speed of movement, then I can just add a little pressure and she'll go into a nice easy trot there. If I want to turn her around, all I need to do is step back, reach over the rope, send her the other way, changing the direction hand and the loop hand. If I want to pick up that speed, I just create a little agitation and energy, comme ça, and off she goes. When I'm driving a horse, I'll look her directly in the eye. Otherwise, I won't offer a direct challenge by looking the horse in the eye. Are we on? Sorry. Just to recap on what I was saying, control of every part of the horse's body. If I want this horse to give me its head, I just pick up the lead rope a little bit more, pick up the lead rope, release the pressure. If I want this horse to move across, I step to the corner and I ask her to square to me. If I want to drive her or send her, I'll raise an arm. I don't need to do anything else. Just show her which way to go. Step towards me. So what we're going to do now is a little bit of moving on from control of the body. We're going to move a little bit on to desensitizing work, and we would do this with a horse that was very sensitive, a horse that was very flighty, or a horse that was kicking, for instance. We can work on this desensitizing to help the horse get used to handling on the back legs and just to come to terms with things that would otherwise be difficult for it to tolerate. The sort of things that we might use would be this that we call a flag for obvious reasons, and we would use it, we could use it indeed to direct the horse with. So if I wanted the horse to move around, I could create a little bit of agitation here and get the horse to move away from that. But that would not be my inclination in general. I would use this for desensitizing purposes, and here we'd work over the horse's back, around the legs, which are its instruments of flight, under its belly, which is a sensitive area. The back legs are the instruments of flight, of course, but also they can inflict a lot of damage. So if we had a horse that was problematic with its back legs, I would be inclined to work at a distance from those back legs while still retaining control over the horse's head. It's a special flight harness for our event. As the horse gets more used to this, we'd apply a little bit more pressure. But coming back to the horse that kicks, as long as I've got control over the head, I can safely go in from this position here, my point of the shoulder and the hypotenuse of this hip, and work on the back leg. All the time that the horse was kicking at this flag, I would keep doing this in a rhythmical, easy way. As soon as the horse stopped kicking, I would take the flag away. We'd build on that until I would start to get down there eventually with my hand, and then we'd pick up from there. Obviously, this can offer a little bit more in terms of a desensitizing tool. Horses don't like things over their head. They have a blind spot in front of the face here, they have a blind spot behind the tail, they have blind spots under the neck, above the back, unless they turn their head, and blind spots obviously under the belly. So I can put the pressure up a little bit here, and bearing in mind that the horse is a prey animal and a flight animal, and we work each side of the horse, and we work over the horse's head, and we work around the horse and around the horse's legs, those areas of flight that are very important for us to work with. That's fairly simple. We can go on to something a little bit more elaborate. This is the national flag of Cornwall, St. Piran, and it makes rather more of a clutter as we unfurl it. She'll accept this, obviously. I'll go very quickly through these different pieces of equipment. The next thing I've got is a couple of carrier bags on a wand. This is something that most horses don't care for initially, but it's something actually that all too often in this country, given the habits of lots of people, we find floating around in the countryside. So I would expect her to be able to take this sort of pressure and not respond to it. We'll move on to something a little bit more elaborate now, and perhaps a little bit more worrying for the horse, and that's a plastic flag on the end of a whip. I think that's a fly rather than her getting too worried about it. Both sides of the horse, around the legs. Instruments of flight, very important that we desensitize our horse to the problem here. That's just a fly. So you get the idea with that. Now, this is just a whip that again we would use to put around the legs. We'd use it over the horse's body. And this is part of the whole process of desensitizing, or habituation as the scientific term is. And we need to learn to use these instruments that are involved here. And we can get the horse so inured to this that she's actually prepared to walk into the arc of the whip without any pressure at all and follow this she'll settle square to me, and I'll just move that hip over. All this is uncontained, she's not tied, and in actual fact you would never tie a horse to do this sort of work because you could induce panic that would lead to a pretty chaotic situation. I would start this ideally within the round pen where the horse has freedom to move away from this problem of tolerance. Umbrellas we quite often come across when we're out riding, and so again it's important that the horse learns a little bit about this sort of thing and can tolerate this. And as I said to you, things above the head are not much appreciated, but again she'll tolerate this and she'll put up with this, and we can get that flying around a bit. So that's all good, and we can put that on her there and just working close nice and easy. Now, bearing in mind they're flight animals, all of their senses are very important to them. The legs are their instruments of flight. They have terrific vision, night vision. They don't have the detailed vision that we have. They have terrific hearing, and they have a wonderful sense of smell, not unlike a hunting dog. But if you can induce in the horse an element of trust, where you can actually take the horse's sight away from it, then we'll turn this way slightly. Then it just shows what can be achieved with an animal to help calm it down. And if we go to something a little bit more impressive, this is just a bag from inside a hay delivery. But we need the horse to be happy with all of this sort of thing. And this is all achieved by a process of pressure and release, advance and retreat. Initially, it's very likely that with most horses, you wouldn't be able to get within 10 feet of them and do this. But of course, if you've got a rope that is 14 feet long, you can introduce it gradually, take it away, introduce it, take it away, introduce it. And I'm just going to show you now that you can actually induce such terrific trust in the horse that you can take her sight away completely and she's not going to panic. So I can actually put that over her face like that and hold it there, and there's no problem. You saw her ears, no problem at all. And for our part of the control of the animal is not only controlling its movement, but controlling its lack of movement. You'll notice that she doesn't move away when I leave her, as long as she is effectively ground tied. She's learned that when the rope's down, she doesn't go anywhere. To make these next couple of moves a little bit more significant, I'm going to take away the ground tying. Now this is something that we haven't done before, so it's a trifle speculative. And these are just bits and pieces from a packing crate, and they are going to go off, but she's not going anywhere. Right, she's mastered that. That's the first time she's seen those, so that's excellent. And this is probably her most impressive performance with a whip or anything like that. And this is a stock whip and it goes off like a rifle. So I'll just show this to her. I'll throw it over her back, although frankly that's not necessary. And then we take it . And I think that speaks for itself in terms of desensitizing a horse and helping it to become calm and to tolerate things that might otherwise cause a problem to it. But don't be misled, this horse isn't a passive stooge, she's actually a very lively creature, and she's quite capable of giving a good account of herself. Just ask her for her head. In the control and movement of a horse, backing up is very, very important. So I would want a horse to go backwards. It's not a natural thing for a horse to do. It might take a step back and spin, but it certainly doesn't go back in a big way. but we can get to a position where just a little pressure will send the animal backwards. As long as the pressure's on, she'll keep moving. It wouldn't matter if this rope was 20 feet or 25 feet, she'd keep moving. Take the pressure off, invite her back in. We can get to such a level of sensitivity that if I put a rope around her back leg, she will come with me till I stop her, pressure and release. If I don't put a rope around her back legs, she'll come with me. And she'll probably almost come with me if I just keep going backwards like that. Good girl. Just here, so it needs to go around to here. Round about here. I'd just like to make one point before I go on to work with tarpaulins and plastic, and that is very important, that whenever you're with your horse, whether you're doing it knowingly or unwittingly, you are training it. If, as with most people, you're training it unknowingly, then unfortunately there's a reversal taking place, and that means that as far as the horse is concerned, the horse is training you. So be aware of everything you do with the horse, be aware of what you're doing with the horse all the time. Communicate with the horse in a way it understands through your body, through your movements, by looking at its ears, its eyes, by looking at its mouth, by looking at the set of its tail, its body, how it's moving, the set of its head. You need all of these things in mind all the time. Be careful, be aware, but make sure that you're calling the shots. We want a partnership, and we want a partnership based really on at least 51% in your favour, so that you're directing the show. Tarpaulins, very important, very helpful way of training horses to get used to things that they won't tolerate easily. And one would start, obviously, we're not going to take long on this, but one would start obviously with the tarpaulin rolled up fairly small, or you just get the horse, as we've taught it already, you would just get the horse to walk over that tarpaulin, let it have a look, and over it goes. Over the tarpaulin, no pressure here, turn the horse around, inside, back the other way. We would then spread the tarpaulin out, we would spread it out, and we would very quickly get it to a size where it becomes a bit more significant. She's just moving out of my space there, quite right too. Windy day, lovely for tarpaulins. I'm going to open this right out because I won't, or she won't either have a problem with it, but it will give you an idea of what you can get used to. So we get to a point where these sort of things aren't going to bother her. We'll move on to there. We'll get her to trot across it. I'm going to stop her on here, just by moving round. She gave us quite a good illustration there of something that's useful. She decided momentarily that she'd change direction. I wasn't having that, so all I did was I just kept persisting very gently in giving her the direction that I wanted her to take. We'll move her around on here. even if she doesn't care for this much, she'll accept it because she trusts me. And so she will pull this tarpaulin. This isn't a big problem. So we've got her wrapped up here, and we've got bags blowing around. So we'll take her off this tarpaulin, and we'll take her through these bags here. And again, these will feel very strange underfoot. They'll be up around her legs. So we'll move her on. Excellent, you can see that these things do concern them. So I'm just asking her to go. She is going the wrong way, but we persist, and here she goes. That's lovely. Which just shows us something else with horses, that if you get resistance, you need to work through that resistance. It happens all the time, it's to be expected, but a lot of people, if they meet resistance, particularly a horse rearing up, a horse pulling back hard, they'll stop. It's the worst thing you can do. You have to work through that resistance. You have to let the horse know that things are all right, but you have to let the horse know that he can't actually leave it alone. We'll go the other way. Direction, open my body, a little bit of agitation here. Send her around. Through she goes. Send her around. Girl, she faces me exactly as we would expect. She comes in. A little bit of a reward, pressure off. That's all easy. And I want to do one more thing with the tarpaulin before we call that a day there. I want to drape it over the gate and show you how we can ask the horse to push through and past the tarpaulin, which is quite a sparey thing for it. What I've got to do is I'm going to pin it up on one side. I think that might do it. And then we'll pull it across, as we'll go through a couple of times and pull it across as we go. So I think that's probably okay as long as it stays there. Let's trade it on the ground. Vanessa, is it on the ground down there? That's okay, I think that'll be alright. I'm going to send her through and bring her back again. This is a direct and drive. So I ask her to come through. We'll get her head in there, and through she goes. I'll ask her to come around. She just follows the feel of that rope. I'll bring her back again. Good girl. Good girl. You can see she's not very comfortable with this, but she's coming through. We'll take her through once more. It's blowing a little bit, and then I'm going to close the gap up. Good girl. I haven't needed to touch her. I'm just asking her to come. Now it's all moving, which is great as far as I'm concerned. Bring her in. You can see the resistance there, but I get her head through. I ask her to come in. Good girl. We'll just move that over a little bit. Close the gap up. That's becoming altogether more daunting for her. So again, direct and drive. I've got my direction hand here. I'm asking her to go into that. It's blowing around. And through she goes. I hold the rope. It turns. I release the pressure. She comes back to me. I direct her through. I open my body. Lead her through. Bring that over more. Ask her to go through here. Good girl. Turn her towards me. Turn her around. Ask her to come. Just pick up that rope. Just guide her into this gap. Through she comes. That's terrific. We'll just take it one more because we're closing this down quite a lot, particularly as it's blowing around a bit. That's good. Good go. I'm directing her through here. She knows what I want. She finds this difficult. Let's just stay with this.
I think she's more scared of me.
No, she's not. Don't worry about that. It's this flying around. Good girl. Good girl. I'm asking her. I got to keep asking her. Good girl. Good girl. Fantastic. That's fantastic. That's a real good try. I want her to come round again. I'll ask her to come in once more. Good girl. That's wonderful. That's just excellent. Well done, that's fine. Here. Come on, good girl. Good girl. Now we can get a little bit of control here. We can go back a step and it'll tip. We can come forward a step and it'll tip. We can go back a step and it'll tip, and she's going to go off to the side, but I want her to stay in there. Just a bit of pressure on her shoulder, and I'll ask her to come off at this end. I'm pleased with that because we haven't touched this for 3 years, and it's not something we did a lot of even then. Initially one would just introduce it to the horse in this way, and that's the horse exploring a surface that it's not quite sure of. And we wouldn't have the pivot in the base initially. We'd bring the horse up to it and we'd just ask the horse to step across that way, the easy way. And then we'd ask her to come back. But again, with a novice horse, I'd probably have to be on the same side as her. With this one, I can just welcome her across, ask her to come to me. Terry's having a good look at that. Now, if we've got proper control of our horse, we can ask her to take one step, stop her. Ask her to take a step back, stop her, and there we are, and we can just walk her right off this. Good girl. And again, if I can just say, all of the work we did on the ground with asking the horse to give her head, it doesn't take very much to translate that to riding in the saddle, or indeed without a saddle. If I want this horse to come back, I just have to roll my hips and ask her to come backwards like that. If I want her to go if we apply our pressure and release, thank you, apply our pressure and release, if I want this horse to go to my left, I just have to touch there and she'll move to my left. I just have to drop my hip and touch on my left and open the gate. In actual fact, I can get this horse to move without touching my legs, or without touching her with my legs, and just using that rein. No bit, no bridle, it doesn't take a lot. Ask her to come back. Ask her to swing her shoulders across and pivot. I just turn this way, she'll come round in a nice tight circle. And I'll ask her to step on here. Just sit back and ask her to stop there. Stay nice and relaxed, she'll be fine. Ask her to hop off. That's absolutely great. Good girl. And she will of course stay still. I'd just like to say a very quick word about horse handling and touching horses, and possibly this should have been said earlier on. I'm very concerned about the way in which I touch horses, and I'm very concerned about the way in which other people touch horses, particularly horses I go and see that are quite troubled. Invariably, people spend a lot of time patting a horse like this. I have to tell you that horses don't really like that. What horses like is they like to be stroked, and particularly appropriate is to stroke the horse on the neck towards the withers, where the mare would actually lick the foal shortly after it's born, and to comfort it. If one's working around the head and the face, very gentle touch is important. And this brings me to another point about handling horses or working with horses, and that is this. While the methods I use are applicable to almost every horse, they're not necessarily applicable to every person, because it's very important that you entirely let go of your ego. Very difficult for a lot of men to do, especially. It's particularly important that you show almost unbelievable amounts of patience. And it's also important that you're very open-minded in terms of learning things about horses and finding out how they feel and what they're doing. So, as an admonition, stroke horses and go in for what a man called Frank Bell calls search touching. So look around and see where the horse likes to be touched, worked over its body, and just be very sensitive and very gentle, and you will be able to get quite astonishing results from the animals. It is possible, according to another of the guys that I've worked with, Richard Shrake, to induce endorphin release by working here around the horse just over the eye, and also by stroking the ears and just working on the end of the ear there, and gradually working through the face to make the horse feel relaxed and easy. If you want to just try the system on yourself, see whether you like to be slapped on the arm or stroked on the arm. It's a no-brainer, as they say. And I think really that covers pretty much the essence of what we do. And I would like to thank the two horses who've been great, as they always are. I'd like to thank Sarah Frost for helping with the horses. And I'd very much like to thank Vanessa, who has done all the filming and looked after us so well. Thanks to everybody here, and there we go.